Hello, everyone. Walter Crosby with Helix Sales Development, your host for Sales and Cigars. Today we have guest Curt Tueffert with P. Curt is the first time we've had somebody on from in a sales enablement role with a company, and I was excited to talk to Curt because he's created this program, sales enablement for the company, to help salespeople be successful. And they do a lot of what Helix does, but they do it for the company, and it's a true sales development group, sales enablement group within the company. So it's created an LMS that allows them to go listen to audio and video track, to understand how to do presentations, to work on their sales skills for product development, some really great tools where a salesperson has a fighting chance. And he describes their onboarding process and how they go about it. It's a great, if you're a VP of sales or a CEO of a company, there's some really great ideas here for you to gather and listen to. And maybe there's some things that you can pick up to do for yourself. Helix is always happy to help with those, but there's some things that you could do internally and at least change the mindset within the sales organization. So I'm going to finish my Padron 4000. And I've already finished my Woodford Reserve Double Oak Bourbon. But strap in, go grab yourself a beverage, and listen to my conversation with Curt about sales enablement. Thanks. Curt, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. And with all the things that you got going on right now, taking 30 minutes is probably going to be a big stretch for you. So thank you.
Looking forward to it.
I was excited when you agreed to be a guest for Sales and Cigars because it's a unique perspective that you're going to be able to bring to the audience, something that we haven't had the opportunity to discuss with somebody that does all of the stuff that a sales consultant might do, somebody like us, but you're doing it within the whole organization for a large group of salespeople, and you have to live it every day. There's so much more to it. So we could spend hours talking, but we won't, but we could spend hours talking about it. But I really like to start there. If you can give your perspective on how big of a job that is, how big of a lift that is, and was it what you expected?
That's a great question, Walter. And the way it started was I started managing the Houston, Texas-based sales organization, and we grew. And we got to a point where we needed to create some type of a formalized sales training. And then my position moved into a sales development role. And what that means is that I was responsible for creating the curriculum, doing the training, and continuing to manage salespeople. And so I decided to add to the face-to-face training a complete learning management system, or an LMS, where we could create online sales training and have people in the comfort of their own home go through some of those courses as well. So it became a heavy lift.
Was the LMS focused on product, or was it focused on sales skills?
Great question. It was focused on commercial skills, not so much the technical skills. So prospecting, business development, responding to objections. Over time, I started recording courses on customer service, negotiation, crucial conversations. And then I knew that I needed more, because our salespeople are typically in a car, in a truck, driving. So I created something called DXP University and the DXP Sales Gym. And I would interview using podcasts before podcasts were cool. I would interview and use those as audio messages, and somebody could listen to that as they're driving and get a little bit of some soft skills training prior to jumping into a hostile sales environment.
Yeah, it just feeds their mind and starts to build a positive mindset. And can we say you were ahead of your time in that sense?
I think I was so far ahead of my time that nobody cared. I think I was trying to solve a problem that wasn't even there yet. So it was just part of what I do. I also teach sales at the University of Houston when I'm not doing this, and write sales articles. And I came from a background as being a salesperson and then a professional speaker. So that's wired in me. And I think I just wanted to pour that into a couple of different mediums that will help some of these struggling salespeople.
And a lot of them struggle. You've been around long enough to see that they just struggle because of the lack of what you do on a regular basis.
they struggle. And coming from Texas, which is a little bit different than other states, their egos are so large, they wouldn't admit that they're struggling. And so they know more than anybody else. They're the smartest person in the room and they got the biggest egos. However, this idea of this online learning, if you will, this DXP sales gym, that permeated to inside sales management. And then it was open to anyone in the company that wanted to take some of these classes. And I think there was some secondary benefit as well as the people who were quote unquote required to take these courses.
It helps people that aren't in sales or tangentially involved to understand what it is a salesperson does. I've been around long enough to know that some folks, and it's still there today, but they thought all we did was go to lunch, play golf, and just schmooze, whatever the hell that means, people. And I'm sure there's people that did that and earned a living, but I've been more of that. How do I get better? How do I sharpen that skill? Ever since I started. In my first job, I've told this before, my sales training was, you're here. Okay, you're on time. There's a desk over there. Go grab that chair, and we'll get you a phone in a little bit. Right? That was it. And go canvas 805 3rd Avenue and come back tonight and tell me what you saw. And then do that again and do that again. And nobody told me what to say. And unfortunately, there's a lot of that still around. So do you think I think there's two questions for me here. Do you think the salespeople, despite their egos, and I don't think that's exclusive in Texas, they have egos all over the country, but I understand what you're saying. Do they really appreciate what they have? Probably not to the extent that they should, but do they recognize that it's helping them?
I think the newcomers do see it because once they're properly, whether it's onboarded or waterboarded, however you want to phrase it, they see this depth of tool sets that they have, and they appreciate the fact that they can go there and they can say, wow, rarely does a company give you a little bit of sales training, but we offer 96 hours of it.
Wow.
So there is a lot out there. It's all what we call freedom within a structure. So the regional sales management has the freedom to enroll their salespeople in. It's not a forced mark. The ones who do go benefit, and we can see a faster return on investment.
But you still position it as, we'd like you to do this, we encourage you to do this, but you don't have to do this. Is that what I heard?
Agreed. That's exactly the way it is. And I would prefer that we always onboard people. They have to go through courses. It's a big company. It's in North America. Sometimes people don't want to hit their P&L when it comes time to fly a salesperson from one place to another so they can get the training that they need.
But you're allowing them to access this from their vehicle or from their phone, or just like Audible or any other system that gives people access on their terms.
Exactly. Some of the classes are auditory. They're just 100% audio. Some are voice over PowerPoint. Some are recorded Zoom. So there's a lot of different dimensions. They're out there. It's like the books in the library. Highly successful books if you can get the person into the library. Rarely do I see people getting drug into the libraries. But if you're there and you understand the value of the books, there's no telling where you could go with the knowledge you acquire from those books. And there's really no telling where the salesperson can go if they tap into these courses and apply what they're learning.
So I have one more question around, I want to talk about onboarding, but I have another question around it's a great tool. You have plenty of information and plenty of opportunity for somebody to go wherever they think that they might need some help. Where they perceive that there's some value, they can make that decision on their own. There's a ton of stuff, just like a library, which I don't think most people even know they exist anymore. But how do you measure? I'm sure you can track who's using it, but how do you measure? That's kind of a soft number. How do you translate the use of the tool over a period of time to a metric that is measured daily, weekly, month, win rates, or by a sales cycle length?
Great question. When I first rolled out the sales training, it was what I hear a lot. I don't want to spend money on a professional sales course because I can't find the soft ROI or even the hard ROI on that. We couldn't necessarily tie the win of a large deal because you walk through a 6-step sales process and you magically led your customer from investigate, to meet, to probe, to apply, convince, tie it up, and go through the impact sales process. So we gave up on the holding them to the fire to say which part of the sales process allowed you to transition the customer from a look-see to a maybe to a this to a that. What we found was toward the end of the sales process, if you use what we are calling the assumptive close, hey, Walter, I just need a purchase order to get started. The more consistently you use those words, the more consistently you close business. And we could tie one to another simply for the fact that you start using that script, that very complex script. I just need a purchase order to get started. And if you did your process, they would probably say yes more times than they would say no. And that's how we tie it to some success.
Okay, interesting. When we engage with a client, it's the first thing we do is talk about sales process. We help them look at it differently. We help them tweak it to a point where it's simple, but it represents the buyer's journey, but it represents the ability for that salesperson to talk about opportunities, to know where they are, know what they missed. Sales managers can go back and say, hey, you got over here to get ready to do the proposal, but you never spoke to them about a compelling reason for them to do this, or you didn't really talk about understanding the resources that were going to be required. And so we do something similar where it's the context for everything, for coaching, for the language you use to talk about a deal. And it just we slide it in there to be that contact. And we get the salespeople to, it's how we get engagement, is to get them to say, are you doing these things? Those are the things I really should be doing. Okay, fair enough. You should be doing them. Maybe this will help you get there. Let's try it and see what happens. It's the ones that say, no, I just fly by the seat of my pants. And those are the ones that are a little harder to get to bring along. Especially, you have to show them they're riding around in assless chaps before they recognize that they don't really flying by the seat of their pants isn't a good idea.
To your point on the coaching and the mentoring, I'm finding that the sales management can be coached and trained to do better at their sales management job. We do have some courses for sales management. It's harder to get those people in, but it's hard for us to expect a salesperson to do these things if it's not modeled by the sales managers many of the times. So we typically get a bunch of independent mavericks out there doing what they do, and they're only measured by, at the end of the day, what's their output, what's their production, how did they get there, don't really care. If you're supposed to hit 100,000 a month, I don't care if it was with water or with kryptonite, just get us to 100,000 a month. And then we miss all the nuances of coaching and all the wonder that you do as you come alongside a company with your expertise. Hopefully you help track them into, you guys are working really hard, but you're not working as smart as you could be. And therein lies the value that you would bring, as how to work smarter at this game rather than working so darn hard.
It's a great way to look at it. It's a great way to describe it. And I look at it, this is about me. I try to do things so that I don't have to think a lot about what I have to do. So my briefcase is packed if I have to go, and all I have to do is remember to bring the briefcase. Everything I need is in the briefcase. So I just got to remember the one thing. And I tried to teach that to our daughter. Have that backpack ready to go, so you just grab it and go in the morning, because surprise, she wasn't always ready to go on time. So the sales process is like, if we look at it as we don't have to think a lot, we just have to do that, follow that checklist. And we just have to follow that next checklist. And we're just following the checklist. And doctors do it, pilots do it all day long. And their job is a little bit more important. If they screw something up, other people die. We just apply that to sales. That's really good. That's really good stuff. And I don't know, they really should appreciate what they have. And if they were able to go look at a competitor or some other company and realize that's not normal, what you've created and built is unique and special. Major kudos. So I'd love to talk about your ideas around a problem area we see with clients is onboarding. And that's when you were talking about what you do, that was one of the do's. So can you kind of at a high level talk about what you think is important with onboarding, and then we can drill down from there?
You bet. We have a disadvantage or an advantage depending on how you want to spin it. The company is over 100 years old. So trying to onboard a new salesperson and get them all the knowledge of a company that's been around for 100 years is a difficult task. We have created onboarding courses. We, Curt, me, created onboarding courses that are held every quarter in one location, Houston, Texas. And in that, the salesperson gets exposed to the leaders of specific departments, divisions, and markets. And that gives them the ability to assimilate all of this tribal knowledge in one location. And they get to hear from these people and converse with these people. And each night there's a networking event where they can talk offline with these people. That's on day one. Day two, same thing with a little bit of sales training blended into it. And then on day three, for the salespeople, I have something called Shark Tank, where the room has changed. It now looks like the television show Shark Tank. And I bring in sales professionals from the Houston area, 4 of them. And they pepper the class with questions based on everything they've learned. And then they score that. So the salesperson in the class stands up, gives a 30-second elevator pitch, explains why they're there, and then the sharks start to pepper them with questions, and that's all scored. And the person with the highest score gets a big dollar amount gift certificate. So the onboarding is a fun thing to come to. When they leave, they have access to the DXP sales gym and the university, and then that's all part and parcel of their commercialized training. The other side is the technical training. And if it's industrial supplies or rotating equipment, then we try to set them up for factory courses or move them through additional online type courses that are offered by manufacturers to give them the balance between their commercial skills and their technical skill. All of that happened within the first 6 to 9 months. And the first 8 weeks of their employment, I get a list of all new salespeople and I send them to their home address. I call it a drip marketing campaign. They get a card from the president. They get a product from me. They get a card from me. They get another product from me. And then they get a third card, which is the 5th touch, all to their home address. That kind of gives a subliminal message to anyone else living in the house. Hey, mom or dad, this is pretty cool. Your company keeps sending you things in the mail. Customized, personalized, gives them just a little bit more stickiness, if you will.
But that's a really good point, that you're applying support for their mindset. You're supplying subconscious, subliminal, if you will, messaging that everybody else can pick up on and help validate that they've made a good decision to come work with you. And there's opportunity if they choose to accept it. Right? There's help there if they want it. And it gives them that vibe. Is that?
It's agreed. It gives them the vibe. And again, because let's just say I'm in Houston and I hire a new person in Boston, they may not come to the onboarding class. Yet, in 8 weeks, they get touched by the company and myself 5 different times. Each time there's a little bit more information. Go to this and log in. Go here, do this. Go here, do that. They get this ability to say, wow, these guys really care. I might not make it to the onboarding class in my first 6 months, but I know how to get to the DXP University. I get all the different swag that comes out in the 2022 DXP Sales Gym store. And that's the concept where you go online, you take some courses, and these courses have points next to them, and you accumulate points, you turn the points in for some swag. All these things to keep the glue there in the field where it's difficult to get that corporate touch and that corporate connection.
That's so rare. Unless you're at a major organization, it's rare to get that personalization. I've not seen that. Smaller companies, they want to do that kind of thing. They just don't know how to put it together, and they don't have the resources. And there's many companies I've worked for that, as a new salesperson, they put me in a room with a couple of books and read these manuals. And it was like, go over here, go away. We don't have time for you right now. And I remember one of them, I come back and I had 2 notebooks and a engineering book. And I went into the guy that I reported to and I dropped him on his desk and loudly. And I said, I think we made a mistake. And he said, what do you mean? I'm like, this doesn't help me. And if this is how we're going to get me up to speed, then let's stop, because it's not going to work. I need to go talk to people. I need to do something like that. I knew how I learned. And they had a technical product, but I got his attention, right? But he didn't know what to do at that point. So he just started running around having me do what you do in those first 3 days. Go talk to the guy that runs service, and then go talk to the guy that runs R&D, and go talk to the guy that handled these two accounts. So I got what I needed, but it was forced where you roll it out for them and make it much more palatable. In terms of balancing between commercial sales skills and competencies to product knowledge and product training, I understand you have the factories and the manufacturers support that. But what is that weighted? Is it 60-40, 70-30, 50-50?
We ply our trade on technical expertise because you can buy many of our products on a competitor's website. We don't typically do online internet-based ordering. So the technical nature, a lot of it is self-absorbed. You got to find it on your own. You've got to have some skill set. So I would say it's weighted maybe 60-40, 60% technical, 40% commercial. However, I was never that technical guy. I was the guy that knew a guy. I always teach the Danny Ocean School of Selling. I know a guy. And so
I love it.
even to
That's
this
great.
day, if I have to go on a sales call and it's service related, I'll bring the vice president of service with me because they know it better than I do than I'll ever know it. And so I teach a lot of that to the people who are in a commoditized, high volume, transaction based selling environment. Just be that guy that can bring relationships together and crawl higher in the organization based on the sales training and the trying to remove the fear from stop staying at the metal desks and purchasing, start moving to management, start moving to engineering, start moving higher in the organization. And if you're afraid, bring me with you. I've done this for enough time that I can go and talk to those guys, but I don't want to give you the fish. I want to teach you how to fish in those pools so that you can continue to do that and crawl higher in the organization.
It's the Danny Ocean line. I love that. I'm gonna remember that. I did that. I did that a lot, and I didn't realize it because I would have to call on what I thought were super smart people, architects and engineers, and I was selling a technical product that I thought they knew backwards and forwards. And it took 2 meetings for me to realize I knew more than they did. And the guy that owned the company, I was talking to him about it, and he's like, you just need to know just a little bit more than they do to stay ahead of them. And then recognize, you know what? I'm not the technical guru. I understand in and out, I understand inputs and outputs. But if you want to go there, let me bring my guy in and let's get your other technical guy and let them speak about that and get you comfortable because I'm gonna stumble and bumble. And what they respected that we needed to get because he wasn't the technical guy either. He would bring his more engineered guy that focused on those particular items, and then we would help educate that person, give them that we could get credibility that way. And if I stayed involved, that credibility washed back onto me as well because I at least knew what I didn't know. That's a great line. It's a great practice for younger guys to pick up. If it wasn't a technical sale, it'd probably be closer to 50-50 product and commercial sales type training.
And even maybe even 70-30 commercial, because if it's not a technical sale, then I'm competing on price and delivery and perception. And is there an emotional cost of change? What would cause you to make a change? And so we use a simple technique. Who do you buy from? What do you like about that? If you ever were to change, what would cause you to change? So that just gets the conversation rolling. And if they buy from our competitor and I ask them, what do you love about them? What would cause you to change? If I don't get what I'm listening for on what would cause you to change, I need to go higher in the organization because it's a relationship. It's my pre-ex-girlfriend's, best friend's, cousin's, dorm roommate, whatever the craziness would be. I got to help my salesperson stop trying to sell those people because their loyalty is just, it's too much there. We got to go higher. So it's a sport for me. It's more like being a detective, trying to figure out how do we crack the code here. Use the analogy, if you're a Bud, you're in Houston, okay? If you're a Bud Light drinker, would you ever change a Coors? No, never. Okay, I'm not going to try to sell you on Coors if you'd never want to change. You've got to go find people who are willing to make those changes. And it's a fun game. It's a numbers game. It's a relationship game on the commercial side. To your point, we're just a little bit smarter, especially in this niche that we play in engineering. they're doing all they can to stay above water with all the projects they're doing. If we can come in with a product or a technology that would save them time, save them money, do the job better, faster, more effectively, they're willing to listen to that as long as it's not brand new one-off. No one's ever heard of it before, because engineers are very risk averse. And
Yeah.
so it's fun playing in that game. And that's kind of what I teach to the sales guys, is just be a detective. Just be curious.
Yeah, there's a real parallel between trying to figure out why they wouldn't buy or what would cause them to buy. And it's that game that is enticing because what we do is the same, but it's never the same. It's always a little bit different. It's each person has a personality, and it's our job as a salesperson to match what they need, not them to match us. We need to. There's a great line from David Sandler that sales is a Broadway show performed by a psychiatrist. And
I've got one too. When you've seen one, you've seen one. And that way, every person is different. Just because they have the same title, purchasing, doesn't mean that they're the same. And I love your analogy on Broadway show and psychologist, because I love the fact what you just said. It's just so refreshing. Why would you not buy from me? That's a curious approach. And let's go out there and find that out. Maybe the sales call could be 5 minutes. I'm not going to buy from you because my wife works there. Fair enough. Unless you get a divorce, I don't think I'm going to get that business.
my question, that would be my question. So how's the marriage? Everything good? No trouble?
There's your psychology.
There's a certain amount of humor in my approach because it's tough. We're not kidding anybody. Sales, you get told to go away more often than you get welcomed. You get told no more often than you get told yes. And that we know that going in. And so let's have some fun with this. We talk about qualifying prospects, and I was talking about the guy last night, I don't look at it as qualifying. I'm looking to disqualify somebody quickly. I don't want them to feel that, but I'm looking to get that point where if I'm going to get a no, I want it sooner than later. So is this person the right ideal? Is it the ideal client profile? Is it the right target? No. Okay, so why are we talking about this? They have this special thing, and okay, let's dive into that a little bit. But if we're going to go out of bounds, we better know that we're out of bounds and we got to pull back quickly. But I'm just looking to figure out a way that I understand what's going on in this person's brain and what their real needs are. And even when I get to the end, we're usually dealing with a CEO of a mid-market company or a smaller company. And we get to the end and we're sitting at the table and everybody's excited. And what do we got to do? Was there agreement here? How do we do it? And I'm like, let's slow the roll here just a second. I'm really excited about this too, but I want to share with you why this might not work. And then they just sit back in the chair. What do you mean? You just spent time here talking about this. We've been going through why this is going to be great. I'm like, it's going to be great, but there's going to be a point where you need to do something, and I want to make sure you're ready to do it. And I usually tell them, like, about 35 days into this, 45 days into this relationship, everybody's going to be happy. Everybody's going to be excited. You're doing what Curt does, right? You give them all this support, and you're trying to help them. And then at some point, they're going to realize, holy crap, this guy wants me to be accountable to the things I said I was going to do. He wants us to, these guys are going to come to you and say, hey, he's crazy. He wants me to do a bunch of stuff that we've never had to do before. So I'm not doing it. So as a CEO, what you do in that moment makes or breaks this relationship. And you need to know that now. It's going to get bumpy. And rarely do we lose something for that. They want to talk about it and they want to understand, but I have it out of the way. So instead of that 45 days in, where everybody's now starting to panic, remember the conversation we had? I told you it was going to get a little bumpy. Well, that's where we are. So go get that seatbelt we talked about, strap it in, and we're going to keep going. We know how to do this. It's just some people are not going to jump on the train. So it's refreshing to see that the corporate world has somebody like you that's driving this engagement, driving the support, and what I call giving the salespeople a fighting chance. It's just awesome because they need help, because we do a lot of evaluations and looking at salespeople, and it's a pretty small percentage of them that know what they're supposed to be doing and can execute. It's awesome. Let's wrap this up. We didn't talk about this. The podcast is called Sales and Cigars. I've been smoking a cigar since we started. Do cigars play any part of your life or in your past life? And
I've got great stories of how the cigars make me turn green, and it's a great show. It's part of that Broadway show. Here at this office, we actually have a cigar smoking lounge, and that's where all the big decisions are made. There's a special air duct system, and I'm there for the wine, and I can tolerate the cigar smoke. In fact, I really like it, but I just haven't found the most mild. If I can find a cigar that I'm just breathing air and it looks like a cigar, but it's fake, I'm there with you. But yeah, I love a cigar. There's something about it, changes the tempo of everything. Everything changes. And of course, the old William Shatner TV show where they were lawyers, and at the end, they'd sit there on the balcony with James Spader and smoke a cigar. I think cigar sales went up based on that show, just like golf went up when Tiger Woods was playing.
Well, Boston Legal is the show you're talking about.
Yeah.
And they would sit out there in the summer and in the cold, and they had real conversation. That's where the real conversations took place.
Yes.
And that's where in this room that you guys have with if it's got good filtration, somebody like yourself who can tolerate it, it's like, oh, I'm okay with it as long as I don't have to take it all in. You're part of that. Everything slows down.
Yes.
And this is why I enjoy it. I have often what I call a contemplative cigar, where I got something I'm trying to work through. I have a speech coming up I got to do. I'm trying to work through some transition, or I just have a particular problem I'm trying to work through. I can get 30 to 40 minutes with a cigar and a notepad, and it really helps me think. And there's on the golf course, there's a reason there. It helps me slow down there too, and God knows I need that. It's a social thing. We travel, and if I go to Pittsburgh, or if I go to Indianapolis or Vegas, there's always that cigar shop that I can go to and go by myself, and I'm never alone because there's a bunch of brothers and sisters of the Leaf that are there to help. And if I feel like talking, I'm great. If I don't, I can just sit there and have a cigar. Yeah. So it's a cool company. If you can have a cigar room in the building and have a development program that supports an organization, that's just amazing. Is it just you in the department, or you got other people that it's all on you?
I have 10 admins.
Okay.
So I fire them every day and I hire them every day. All my 10 admins. Yeah.
Got it. All right, got it. That's not uncommon. All right, Curt, I'm going to have in the show notes the website for the company and your LinkedIn profile. Is there anything else that you want people to know? Because I think
that's perfect.
Are you guys hiring?
We're always hiring. Absolutely. It's a hiring market right now. So DXPE, it's part of the email address. That's the website. And there's pretty sophisticated software out there that places people in job opportunities.
Awesome. If you're a salesperson, and you got your offices everywhere, right? You can.
Yeah, we have 147 offices in North America.
So if you're a salesperson and don't want to be on an island, I think P is a place that you should contemplate taking a peek at, because you're going to get trained on the product and you're going to get training to help you be a successful sales professional. So thank you very much, Curt. This was awesome. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Walter, thank you.